The Players' Tunnel at St James's Park. This is where it all starts on a match day, and it's when you really get to the heart of what football's about. The players coming out and the crowd rising to them, that interaction between player and fan. And it's something that the Exeter City History Group have been really interested in. How's that interaction taken place over the years? Are there differences between the old days and the current days? Thanks to the university getting funding, we set up a project, we held a couple of workshops and invited players from previous eras, current player Matt Oakley, a range of supporters covering those times, to really have a conversation together about how they used to interact and how they interact now. So those changes have been documented through the workshops, and I think are a very interesting part of our history. I just wondered, for you as a player, I suppose it's the old adage, do you get the crowd going or does the crowd get you going? What's going on there?
I think it can be either. I think depending on how well the team are playing at the time, the confidence of the team, that can incite the crowd to get behind the team. But if the team are struggling with confidence, then they would like an extra hand. Then that's where the fans can come in. And I think the thing that I like this year is obviously the drumming that the young lads bring to the stadium. I don't know what it is, but it just gives there's some sort of rhythm to it and atmosphere that keeps things going. It stops that silence when you're playing poorly or you're making mistakes, or because it happens. So I quite like that.
Well, obviously the ground has changed quite considerably. When I was playing, it was obviously the long gate. There used to be the cowshed, and obviously all the crowd generated all the noise from this end. I mean, obviously there was a few supporters on the big bank, but obviously all the support really was generated, from the cowshed here, and obviously the older supporters, they would know what it was like to be in the cowshed here. But as I said, it's as Matt was saying, it works both ways, being on the pitch and off the pitch as well. I mean, sometimes the crowd can get a great lift and all of a sudden somebody does a crunching tackle on somebody, and that sort of lifts the crowd up, then that sort of generates enthusiasm.
I think the good and bad relationship was that you always liked applause, you didn't like the verbal. Is that and wherever you played, there was you're always going to get applause and verbal, and it's just a case of it's like I say, even now, obviously now, is that when you're in the dressing room, you've got to do this and you've got to do that. You're not going out there to please the supporters. What you've got to do is you're playing for Exeter City, you've got to get a result. Now, if that means being a little bit on the negative side and you hear supporters, I mean, in our days, is that basically what we heard as defenders was boot it.
And I was good at
that. So what you've got is you've got the management side, which are telling you to do this, and then you've got the supporters, which are telling you to do something else, But is that what we all tried to do was sort of we all tried to get a result. Is that the supporters were there? If you're doing well, is that they're applauding you, they're praising you, and you sort of feeling a little bit better, if you like. But again, as I said, it's that first and foremost, it's that you're playing for the club, you're playing for the manager, you're playing out there as a group of your teammates, your mates, on and off the pitch. And it's just a case of, yes, it's unfortunately some of the supporters weren't going to like what they saw and what they got. But at the end of the day, as we always used to say, is that they are the life and soul of the football club, if you like. They're the ones that support the football club. They're the ones that put the money into the club, and they paid our wages.
Jimmy, for you, what relationship did you have with the crowd?
Well, I had a great relationship.
They loved it.
Yeah.
So what was happening there? What was the ingredient? Why do you think they did?
Well, because I put my head where it shouldn't be, and and they like that. And I'd give sort of the odd cliches, 110%, and that's what I do. Wasn't always right all the time, but they always loved it. I mean, they had the old saying of 6'2". Ivor blue, Jimmy Giles is after you, and that was the big bank, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And they were great, you know. And if I scored, well, it was just, which wasn't very often.
I was in both ends.
Well, yeah, I did have a few of them, but they forgive me for it, you know. And I just loved them, and they're not. If you were up here now, they come up here now, and hadn't played well. The crowd, they're not nasty. You know, they would come up and be quite constructive about it, and frustrated, John. And they just want to say, and you know, not only that, it's just nice to talk to the players.
When things aren't going so well and the crowd starts getting negative, does that spur you on as a player, or does it drag you down? I mean, are the crowd doing a sensible thing by having a go at you, I suppose?
It's the sort of thing you don't want to hear, but I mean, I don't know about the rest of the lads. I'd like to think it didn't affect me. I mean, I think a lot of it, well, the main thing is they get frustrated, fans get frustrated because they all want you to win. And when things are not going well, they get frustrated. I mean, I was talking to a guy in the gym this morning and he's really frustrated at the moment. He's a season ticket holder and he's thinking, I don't know whether I should join next year. But he will. It's just frustration. You get a couple of defeats and a bad home game. And they get frustrated just like the players would, and they get disappointed and if their heads drop, don't they? But on the whole, I think, as you know, I played down the road as well. I think the fans, my experience, the 5 years I had here, were very, very loyal. I mean, right, we got promotion within that 5 years. But on the whole, I think Exeter City fans are so loyal to the club, really loyal.
A good friend of mine called David Wheeler over to us, and we all said congratulations, and because he didn't have to do that. And even Clint was stood. Okay, he was meant to be with all the rest of the subs, but even he was still talking to us, and they don't have to do that.
I thought that was really noticeable, and I thought I just hadn't seen that before. You know, players going over to some of the disabled supporters, and I know it meant a lot. No doubt you tweeted that within seconds.
No, actually, I got stuck on the pitch.
Scott, you and the Football in the Community scheme bring lots of youngsters to games. Can you see what it means to them to have?
Oh wow, yeah. As soon as because the way it works, fortunately enough, they come down the players' entrance. So they experience walking in through the tunnel and then they come into the big stadium. And if they've never been to a stadium before, a club like this, it's just a jaw dropper. Obviously, visually, looking across that way, it's not great, but when they turn around...
What's wrong with it?
When they go into the far corner in the junior Grecian stand and they look back across and they can see the big banks fully packed with the Red Legion singing and dancing.
But it's interesting how for certain games, we've talked about this, Clancy, as well, how the crowd, by the nature of the game, the crowd are more up for it anyway, you know, and I think it's kind of, the challenge is then that's where you get the kind of chicken and eggs. To what extent is the player's performance or the crowd? Is those games where everyone's waiting for something to happen. You know, I think those games, the Liverpool games, I mean, some of the atmosphere, we've had some brilliant atmospheres here over the years. You know, looking at our derby games, the playoff games, you know, and but it's those run-of-the-mill games where, you know, is it the crowd? Can the crowd lift the players and vice versa?
I think what's fortunate is that this group, the Red Legion, have generated all this noise and this support for the team. That they're there every week at home, and they do bring the drum. They've got these chants that everybody's starting to get into now, and start some of them that you can say next to the little ones, some that you can't. But it's good that they turn up. Greg obviously knows the ones that got swear words in.
Yeah.
Interesting is one of the old farms who sits here. The rhythmic drumming is actually getting a lot of us to actually clap and bang our feet on the floor, which was unknown previously. And I've seen some of the people even older than me actually singing along. And it just never happened before, you know, they just sat there statuesque right through the game.
Keeps you awake when that
So Ted, have you started to stamp your feet now?
But it's great that the Red Legion turn up each week, and it's how we do look after them, making sure that they are always welcome, and if they can travel away and generate that support as well, it'd be only good for the squad on the pitch.
When you were playing, home fans were at both ends here when you played at home.
Yeah.
Did you have a preference which end you like to keep?
Not really, because you didn't get, in those days, you didn't get many behind that end, and you didn't get that many on the old bank. Most of them were under here, in the old cowshed. So that was really, you got a few up there, but you know, nothing really. It was the away games that most of the abuse came from. If you make a mistake here, they sort of tolerate it, you know, call you a few names, and hopefully the next game you get back, you make a decent save, and you're back in it, and everybody's all friends again. But I can remember an incident, I think it was at Hore. No, it was one of the London rounds, maybe in Charlton, I can't remember. Anyway, they were throwing a load of fruit, you know, all these pears were coming on. There was a goalkeeper who will keep moving, whatever happens, you know, just whatever you're doing, do a little bit of a warm-up while the match is going on. Keep out of the way, don't stand still too long, because it's throw all sorts of pennies and old crisp bags full of their gravel, what used to be around there, you know, throw all sorts of stuff. And this bit of fruit was coming on, and all sorts of, just about between the penalty spot and the edge of the box, walking, and just that split second, when they sort of going there, oh look, what's going, just turning, and just that split second of looking and turning, a pair went whack on the back of the net. Fortunately, it was a soft net. You'd have thought they'd have scored at Wembley. It's the biggest cheer of the afternoon.
Did you eat it?
There was nothing left of it.
Well, so when I came down, there always used to be 2 or 3 coaches used to go to basically every away game. And in those days, if you're a visiting team, the players used to get like 2 tickets each. And then if all the tickets weren't being used, I used to collect them and I used to give them to the supporters, because they've come a long way down, and you know, so it's just a little help to them. But we did have a crowd of two coaches every away game, irrespective of where we were playing. I mean, and when you come to think, when I first came down here, there was no motorway. I mean, trying to find going all the way up to
Carlisle.
Yeah, going all the way
I
up.
always remember, we went to Carlisle and the game was called off because of snow. And we waved to the supporters, we're coming back, and they're still
Yeah, we do. We always like to see sports. Obviously, the location of Exeter, they have to travel a long way. I'm really shocked sometimes when I sort of go out Hartlepool and there's 500 or whatever fans standing there, clapping and supporting us there, and they've travelled all that way. It does give you a real sort of feeling of excitement, and you want to go and win that game for them and go over to them at the end. Yeah.
But that's quite an interesting interaction, isn't it, at the end of the game? Because I always think when you win, that's fairly easy to celebrate with your fans. It's when you've lost, home and away this goes, the importance of still...
Yeah, the away games, when you've won, lost or drawn, they're always there supporting you. When you come to the home games, you'll see that there'll be a section of the crowd that want to give you some stick, and there'll be a section of the crowd that actually want to clap you, and you feel like you want to go and clap them for the support, but you're getting abused by the ones around them. So for the younger players, it's quite difficult for them being their first time of seeing it, and you don't go over there and clap, and then Julian will come and see us after the game and say, look, you need to go and support these people that come to support you, but you sort of get a feeling, well, I'm getting abused if I'm going over there, I'm getting sworn at, and it's, you've got both sides of it. It's quite a difficult thing to deal with.
So Greg, do you like the fact the players always to come over and clap?
Yeah, I feel that I keep my weekends because, as Matt said, it's quite a journey for. I enjoy the weekends more because there's less of us and there's less of us. It's more like a family thing.
I think you've got to grab what Matt said, that any player, anybody would do anything if it's going to be positive. So if you're going to get an autograph, if you want an autograph off the player, go and ask them that, give them a real buzz before a game. If you want to go and say well done, pat them on the back after a game, that's great, but if you're going to ignore them, or if you're going to say something negative, then that's not going to go down too well, is it?
And I always remember when I first came down here in '63, we had a great rapport with the supporters, because obviously that was the first time the club had got promotion. And but there were times every week the players would go out and just have one night out on the town and literally just have a good drink. But that was the culture in those days. Now you would never hear of anything like that being said now, but that's the way it was, and that's how we enjoyed it. We mixed with the supporters, and obviously, which I don't think the players of today do that.
We had good times because win, lose or draw, we would be in the vice president, we would be having a drink with them, and they get the frustration out, and we would listen to them, and they've had a couple of drinks and they feel quite brave, they can have a go at us or whatever in the nicest possible way, and we accepted it, didn't we?
Yeah, I can remember one afternoon out there, and there was a bloke in there, and I know him quite well from where, because we used to mix quite a lot in those days. We would mix with the fans and talk to them and all that. And some bloke out there, and he shouted, "Oh, Wilson, you're bloody rubbish, you are." So he could have done, my missus could have done better than that. There's the shirt, come and take it. The game's still going on. If you can do better, come and put the shirt on. And things like that. But then you talk to him again afterwards, and it's all a laugh and a joke. And like Pete said, he said, but, and same with the players. You had the players, and mistakes would be made. Nobody wants to make the mistake, but the mistakes happen, and it was a question of how the players around responded to that one. Sometimes, like Pete said, it would be because at the height of it, you silly old fool or something for doing that, But then afterwards, you'll walk away and go and have a pint afterwards and say, "Yeah, I know, but I didn't mean that." "Well, I didn't mean to do that." "But of course you didn't. I didn't mean to call you what I called you." And it's your round next.
I think there's something really nice about the players coming in, the kids standing around waiting for autographs and having pictures, and that all seems to be really as you'd want it to be, and obviously gives a lot of pleasure to a lot of fans.
It gives a pleasure to the players as well.
Yeah, well, it's,
you come in and park your car up and there's people wanting your signature. That makes you feel good as you're coming in. So what I would say about this club is you actually have more access. I played at Premier League level, you wouldn't get to see the players at all. They would come in their cars, they would drop, I did it as well. I'd drop my car off, someone would park my car, I'd go into the change room. I'd come out of the change room after doing press, or man of the match would be the only chance that the people that pay more money to get into those lounges an opportunity to see their player. I would come out, get in my car, and I would drive back.
That was true at Manchester, very much true. It was really noticeable.
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody at Liverpool.
You wouldn't see players walking through the car park.
Absolutely not. They drive, like you say,
security.
They're driven, not now with their cars.
But I think also it's more to do with social media more than anything, because if you see someone like Clinton, for example, he gets all the stick, he deals with it quite well, but for the younger generation, they might not deal with it quite so well. So I can understand it if they then don't go on social media, things like Twitter
And I think that
Just another big graft.
it is massive. Like we all know about the camera phones, we all know about social media, and in a way, like you said, Alan, generation back in the day. I shouldn't say that, but you're a couple of centuries ago. A player could play and then go and have a pint and have a cigarette with the fans, and no one blinked an eye. Nowadays, if that ever happened, if you're all over the front page of the paper, social media.
Jurgen Klopp went and had a pint with someone, and it's like front page news.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be fair, I think my experience as working up here with Andy as match day host is the players, when you get an opportunity to work with the players, interviewing them before the game, and the man of the match, and now doing interviews after the game, you know, in front of the paying customer, which is really appreciated. I think given the opportunity, they actually quite enjoy it, and it's just trying to get more of them involved, you know, rather than just he's your guest today. But experience tells me that we've got some fantastic people who at the moment at the club, and we can mention a whole load of names, who are very, very, very good at interacting with people. And I think that's one of the credits I would say to our manager, is that I think we do tend to sign players that, given the opportunity, and that are very good. I mean, I'm very impressed with our players compared to what I've seen players, not, you know, like yourself, but I mean, there are players we've had here in the past who, you know, couldn't interact with anyone.
We've got young players, haven't we? And it's finding it is introducing them into situations, because they are learning. And footballers from a young age, they're actually quite taken, you know, are in a little bit of a bubble, if you like, compared to, for a better word, the outside world. And some of them aren't, you know, socially sort of able to correspond with other people very well, and it's just got to find ways of learning, and exposing them to a whole load of abuse is just going to set them back. It takes ages to build confidence up and a moment to destroy it. So we've got to find, you know, ways that can do it sort of gradually, you know, sort of get into the right situations, and then they learn, and then they can learn to separate the wheat from the chaff, whether the criticism of them is valid or just something that someone's just decided to do. But it's a very tricky task, and you know, I wouldn't want to. I luckily sort of know quite a lot of our squad members, and you know, if you get to know them, and Giles says there's a little bit of confidence there. Most of them are really actually quite good at talking, putting their view over, and holding a conversation. But it's the right kind of conversation, and the more experience they get, the more they'll be able to handle the rough side, rather than just the smooth, well done, Sonny, you scored a great goal today. I'm afraid that it's not right, but everybody feels they have an opinion. Football and sport is such a monitored and an exposed game at the moment, that everyone feels they have an opinion, and very often it's a very positive or a very negative, and the usual sort of truth of the matter is it always generally lies somewhere in the middle. But you're either up with winning the World Cup or the world's worst ever. You just don't get the balance, I don't think, from fans' perspectives, and that will affect a younger player.
There's always going to be a rapport between the players and the supporters. They're always will be.
The supporters are so important to this club, because without them we wouldn't have a club. We literally wouldn't have a club.